that harsher policies would dissuade the long-term and ongoing flow of migrants into the nation. So part of this story tonight, which matters, and if you're keeping track of the news right now, what you're learning tonight is very relevant to what's going to be happening in the months ahead. So it matters now and for the future. But part of the story is policy. How should this incoming president make policy based on the vows he's made, the campaign pledges he's made on immigration? The other part of it is about law. How can a president, any president, wield emergency powers? And for how long? And what are the limits? And who decides? And all of that collides with what may be Donald Trump's most controversial and currently embattled cabinet pick thus far, Matt Gaetz, tapped for Attorney General. Now, he faces criticism from both parties. I've told you before, as we cover this transitional new era, many of these things are not blue and red. A lot of Republicans are against Matt Gaetz and have even been vocal, in theory. We'll see how they vote. But it is Trump's pick of Gaetz, precisely because Matt Gaetz, former Congressman Gaetz, has voiced absolute loyalty to Donald Trump's personal and political goals. And right there, that's a difference as you look at mass deportation and these claims of military emergency powers. The complete fealty to anything Donald Trump wants is a contrast to Donald Trump's first-term picks on many key posts. That includes his first attorney general, who followed DOJ policy even when it ran quite publicly against Donald Trump's personal wishes, or his DHS and chief of staff, John Kelly, you may remember, was back in the news during the campaign. He was a major ideological conservative, and he was very, quote, tough or harsh on immigration, by the way, but he reportedly, repeatedly stood up to President Trump's demands when he thought they crossed legal lines. Trump's new proposed cabinet picks break with any such precedent. So these stories about Trump's plans, from immigration to fighting crime to vows of retribution against innocent Americans, best we can tell, they collide with the clash over this AG, Matt Gaetz, as a nominee. And it shows why even Republicans are saying tonight they need a lot more information about Gaetz's ethics record before they even consider confirming him to exactly the powerful post that would deal with everything I just mentioned and a heck of a lot more. So this is a position where now some of these Republican senators who publicly say they really are down with everything Trump wants, except confirming Gaetz, and they're at odds with the Republican Speaker, Mike Johnson.
Should the House Ethics Committee release that report, Senator?
Absolutely, and I believe the Senate should have access to that. Now, should it be released to the public or not? That's I guess that will be part of the negotiations.
And my understanding is that the report is not finished. It's in a rough draft form, was not yet ready to be released. And since Matt Gaetz left the Congress, I don't think it's appropriate to do so.
It is remarkable when you think that this was an ethics report prepared by the House under Republican control. It is their work. And yet now, because Trump has decided to elevate this person, they're saying they don't want their work even used in a confidential manner by their Republican colleagues in the Senate. And again, I will, at the risk of repeating myself, tell you, if you want an effective attorney general, you want to do this vetting up front so that they can be effective and competent in that job, completely separate to other ideological considerations. I will tell you, former Congressman Gaetz has denied all wrongdoing, and the DOJ did not charge him after an investigation into at least some overlapping or related conduct. The Ethics Committee is also going to meet Wednesday about all this. Now, another Trump veteran from the first term is weighing in on this, Chief of Staff from first term, Reince Priebus. And he is actually dismissing a theory you might have heard about, the recent speculation that maybe Donald Trump only picked Gaetz as a kind of heat-seeking distraction, knowing he probably wouldn't make it into the DOJ, and that he would both distract, waste time and energy, and then make his other nominees look more reasonable. This is a kind of a imagining of three-dimensional chess, where if you had these remember the Russian dolls? And the big one was Gaetz, and everyone was like, whoa. And then RFK Jr. was inside, but you don't even get to that doll because you're so busy with Gaetz. That's the kind of thinking we've heard as a kind of a spin. Well, here's Reince Priebus saying, even if Republicans, some of them are shocked, even if some of them oppose Matt Gaetz, Donald Trump really wants him in the job.
He made it very clear to me that the Matt Gaetz pick is not three-dimensional chess. to help another nominee get through, that this was what he wanted to have happen. He feels like he's gone to hell and back 10 times. So this is also a big middle finger to the DOJ and the FBI.
Okay. That's a Trump vet who had the #1 job in the White House. And note that the explanation there is coming from Donald Trump's corner, and it is not very legitimate. The defense is not claiming this is a great pick for the nation or claiming that Gates has some other qualifications which are somehow being undercounted by the process, by those Republican senators I mentioned. No, the Trump vet is saying, admitting, Trump sees this in personal terms. He wants to say, quote, F you to the DOJ, end quote. That's according to Trump veteran Priebus. That is the motivation. Meanwhile, DOJ vets in both parties are strenuously objecting because they say Gates has no prosecutor experience or the kind of management experience that would be necessary to run a law enforcement agency this large on day one. Now, MAGA allies have some other arguments, and I want to make sure you're familiar with them. If you've ever watched this show, you know that even when the times are intense or the stories are controversial, we will try to bring you all the evidence. They are arguing that the DOJ has previously been run by candidates with a range of backgrounds. And if you go back far enough, they say that includes political people. If you go back to, say, the Nixon administration, which isn't the greatest precedent, it is true that some of Nixon's political aides did at one point serve as attorney general. They also say if you look to people who are simply loyal to the sitting president, if you go back even farther to Robert F. Kennedy, which was, again, before later reforms were put in precisely to add independence that they didn't have in the Hoover era and they didn't have at DOJ. But they say if you go all the way back to RFK Sr., you do have the example of someone running DOJ who was quite personally close to the president. It was his brother. So that's one wrinkle if you go back far enough. But even these MAGA defenders of Gates have yet to find any precedent, any past attorney general in any era who, apart from being this close to the president, also had publicly waged such partisan warfare, openly threatening government officials, prosecutors, and Justice Department veterans in the so-called deep state.
You had the folks leading the deep state.
The deep state is guilty.
I might be a wanted man by the deep state,
And I won't be extorted by former DOJ officials.
Sadly, Judge, I too have lost confidence in Christopher Wray as the FBI director.
we should have a second special counsel to evaluate the misconduct of the FBI and the Department of Justice.
The deep state won't know what hit them.
Fairest way we can say it is if you are a member of Congress, you can be as partisan as you want. If you are a citizen or a person inside the United States, you have your free speech powers. You can rage against the deep state and other things as much as you want. You have that right. But the people coming into these positions, DOJ first among them, they swear an oath to a constitution, not to any person. And while I gave you the benefit of the doubt on some of the arguments they've made, if you go back far enough to find some less experienced, personally loyal attorneys general, you really can't find anyone who's ever talked like that. And then the question becomes, does he mean it? We are joined by a veteran of the Justice Department. David Kelly was the U.S. Attorney for the famed Southern District of New York. He has handled all kinds of complex cases and prosecutions. He also, full disclosure, was my former boss when I used to practice law. Welcome back.
Thank you.
I tried to run through both the connection to today's news, that an attorney general is exactly who would deal with a president claiming military powers. And so, one, how does that fit into the role you'd want, regardless of party? And two, even if you fairly mention the long history at the DOJ, have you seen anyone do the job who comes into it the way Gates would?
You know, it's interesting because even historically, I think presidents either want or should have wanted, and looking in the rearview mirror, wish they had an attorney general who can say no. And I think even RFK served that role for his brother. It's somebody who can say to him very honestly, I hear what you want to do. You can't do it that way. Can we find a different way to get it done? I'm not trying to defeat your policy. I'm trying to do it in a way that's not going to come and back and bite you in the rear end. And I think there's so many ways that can happen here, that if you have somebody who's loyal and is just a yes man, is not really going to serve the president in the way that he wants. He thinks he wants it. I don't think it will serve him the way he wants, and it won't serve the country the way it should.
When we were reporting on the efforts to overthrow the election, it was reported that Giuliani, who did cross lines, according to civil court, still told Donald Trump when he wanted the military to seize ballots that they'd both end up in jail, quote unquote. And the Jan 6 committee had a lot of testimony on that. You don't get the feeling that Gates, even to protect the president, to say nothing of the rest of the government, would be able to have that conversation.
No, it doesn't sound that way. It sounds that, look, I get the point that the president-elect wants to be a disruptor, and he wants to put people who can do the disruption. And I think that if I was to advise him, I would say you want somebody who can disrupt, but do it in a way that's in accordance with the Constitution. It may be something completely separate and apart from what has been normal protocol for the Justice Department. But I think at the end of the day, you want to make sure you're not going to violate the Constitution, because that has all sorts of ramifications that can come back and really hurt the president, undermine the presidency. You mentioned the Nixon administration. You had that problem there. When George W. Bush, under whom I served, appointed Alberto Gonzales, I think Alberto Gonzales, when he first started thinking he was running a law firm for the president as opposed to running the Justice Department. And that came back to bite not only the Attorney General, but the president as well. And so I think there's plenty of incidents in history here where a president should say, look, I want somebody to carry out my policies. I want somebody to disrupt. I want somebody to do something entirely different at the Justice Department. Get rid of senior people, whatever. But you need somebody who's going to be able to say to him, I hear what you want to do. This is the way we should do it lawfully.
Right. Now, and then let me show you, before I lose you, I want to have you respond to an incoming Democratic senator talking about the legal issue of the use of the military here. Take a listen.
I don't think Arizonans or Americans in general want to replace the chaos at the border with chaos in our communities. And the idea that soldiers are going to be carrying out these types of deportations, I think, number one, it's just not something that we in the United States are used to seeing. Number two, you'll actually really diminish the scope and the trust that people have for our military forces when they're being used against U.S. citizens, potentially, too.
Is this a valid use of the military? Is it good policy, in your view?
I don't know about the policy issue. It gets to be a very complicated legal issue about when you can use the military force. And I think that you need somebody who is going to be able to weed through that very effectively and say to the president, I hear what you're trying to do. We got to find a different way to do it, or this is the way we can do it. I mean, remember, just in his last administration, Sally Yates stood up to him and say, you know, I'm the acting attorney general. I understand what you want to do with this Muslim ban. It's not legal. You can't do it. And she was later vindicated in the courts, and it caused some complication for I think the administration. There was a, bump in the beginning there with that. And I think the same thing needs to be happening here. I don't think there's anybody who can really say off the seat of their pants that what he wants to do, the way he proposes to do it, is legal or not. And as I said, the deployment of the military, first declaring a state of emergency and then using the military to act upon that, is not something that is an easy issue of law to be decided in 5 minutes.
Right. And then there's the question of whether you have the right people at DOJ and the military to do this in a good faith process, or whether Donald Trump wants to do it kind of backed in and says, I just want to see the soldiers in the streets. That's my goal. I don't care.
Yeah, and look, my advice, if I was his lawyer, I'd say, look, you really, at the end of the day, you want to be able to instill confidence, not just in half of the people. You want to instill the confidence in all the people that you're doing something the right way. They may disagree with what you're doing from a policy perspective, but I think you want to instill the confidence that it's legal.
Former U.S. Attorney for the SDNY, David Kelly, thank you, our leadoff guest here on an issue that hits across both those topics, the deportation, the military power. I want to bring in a great Trump insider that you might recall later in the hour. Sarah Matthews will be here on these so-called loyalty tests. Rudy Giuliani has to pay, and that's true regardless of who controls the government in January, because he's facing accountability, losing his watches and cars. We have a report on that by the end of the hour. But first, General McCaffrey joins us here on these important developments on Ukraine and standing up to Putin, efforts by the current president to make a clear point before January.
Honey?
But the gains are pumping.
Yeah, the market's closed.
Futures don't sleep in the after hours, bro.
Dad, is Mommy a finance bro?
She switched careers to make money for your weddings.
Ooh, penny stocks are blowing up. Sweetie, grab your piggy bank. We're going all in. Let me ask you, for your wedding, do you want a gazebo in a river?
I don't... What's a gazebo?
Something that your mother always wanted and never got.
Or you could give these different investment options a shot.
The right money moves aren't as aggressive as you think.
I'm keeping the best.
America has indecided. And they're already deciding what to indecide next.
We've officially entered into the fever dream portion.
The Daily Show on Comedy Central and watch next day on Paramount Plus.
Sounds like you need to vaporize that cold.
NyQuil Vapor Cool?
It's NyQuil plus a rush of Vicks Vapors.
NyQuil VapoCool, the vaporizing nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, best sleep with a cold medicine.
Missing out on the things you love because of asthma? Get back to better breathing with Fasenra, an add-on treatment for eosinophilic asthma that is taken once every 8 weeks. Fasenra is not for sudden breathing problems or other eosinophilic conditions. Allergic reactions may occur. Don't stop your asthma treatments without talking with your doctor. Tell your doctor if your asthma worsens. Headache and sore throat may occur. Tell your doctor if you have a parasitic infection. Step back out there with Fasenra. Ask your doctor if it's right for you.
The United States strongly supports Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity. Everyone around this table, in my view, should as well.
Remarks there from President Biden discussing a major foreign policy initiative right now. Of course, he's the outgoing president, but there's one president at a time, and he is the president, and the Biden administration is now authorizing Ukraine to strike Russia with American-supplied long-range missiles. This is one of the measures that Ukraine has sought. As they have said, they've been fighting at times with one hand behind their back. The United States has resisted this, trying to strike that balance between supporting Ukraine against Russia without supporting measures that were feared to potentially cause the kind of escalation that they didn't want to become a wider war. Meanwhile, North Korea, we should note, has deployed thousands of troops to Russia in support of their side in the Ukraine war. I'm joined now by retired General Barry McCaffrey, an MSNBC analyst. Welcome.
Good to be with you, Ari.
On the foreign policy, what do you see the Biden administration doing, and how does this work when you are in a transition period?
Well, it's a significant move. This Army ATACMS missile has a range of about 300 kilometers. It will change to some extent the parameters on the battlefield. The Russians, as we know, have brought in at least 10,000 North Korean troops. There may be as many as 100,000 headed there. They've got significant support out of Iran with attack drone missiles. So it's a desperate situation for Ukraine, fighting for its survival. I think it also probably is viewed to help set up a potential negotiation when the Trump administration comes into office. And having said that, it's too little, too late, will not have a significant military impact in the battle.
Knowing that the next president comes in on Jan 20, and as you referenced, has signaled something very different, warmer to Putin, colder to Ukraine, although in fairness, he's also talked about brokering something. Does this somehow create an effort to strengthen Ukraine's hand in the short run, or is just too little? When you say too little, too late, or I'm paraphrasing, like, is it not something where there's enough time for this to really do much before Jan 20?
Not enough time to really do something. Desperate situation inside Ukraine. The Russians have been attacking massively across the board against civilian targets, the electrical grid, the water system. It's a desperate situation for Zelensky and his leadership. And I might add now what could come out of all this, we might assume, if NATO is disempowered by the Trump administration, either legally or through just their declaration, they won't sustain Article 5 powers. It seems likely that Europe will not be fooled by all this and will increasingly step up to the challenge of confronting Putin. Certainly with Finland and Sweden now joining NATO, they have immense economic power. So that may be another factor that comes out of all this.
The military's in the news for more than one reason, and obviously you have a lawful election. The incoming president's going to make his plans and change foreign policy as he sees fit. But there are some reverberations that are different right now. The announcement of using the military on domestic soil is something we discussed at the top of the hour, mass deportation. There's an NBC report that some people on Trump's transition team are discussing the idea that they could somehow court-martial military officers targeting those from the withdrawal in Afghanistan, throwing around the word, quote, treason. There are people aligned with the Trump transition team who have, I want to note, pushed back on this reporting. Your reaction?
Well, I think legally it's going to go nowhere. It's a political bomb that will erupt on Trump. There is a uniform code of military justice. It's a federal statute. It has a system. It has a military court of appeals. I think poor Mr. Trump thinks it's Stalin show trials, and he can command them to convict and sentence retired military officers, or for that matter, active duty. It isn't there. So we'll have to see how all this plays out. But I think in the short run, it's going to be an incredible morale boost for the administration, perhaps, MAGA, but detrimental to the ability of the U.S. Armed Forces to operate. I've never heard anything like it. Why would the incoming nominee to be SecDef talk about firing the chairman of the JCS, who got his 4th star from President Trump in the earlier administration? So it's volatile. It's just an incredible situation.
Wanted to get your responses on that and appreciate that, General McCaffrey. Our thanks. Later in the show, we have the Rudy Giuliani accountability in court. And up next, Sarah Matthews is back. Stay with us.
To me, Harlem is home. But home is also your body.
Last one, everyone.
I asked myself, why doesn't Pilates exist in Harlem? So I started my own studio. Getting a brick and mortar in New York is not easy. Chase Inc. has supported us from Studio 1 to Studio 3. When you start small, you need some big help, and Chase Inc. was that for me.
Earn up to 5% cash back on business essentials with the Chase Inc. Business Cash Card from Chase for Business. Make more of what's yours.
If you're living with HIV, imagine being good to go without daily HIV pills. Good to go binge watch. Good to go out even later. With Cabenuva, there's no pausing for daily HIV pills. For adults who are undetectable, Cabenuva is the only complete, long-acting HIV treatment you can get every other month. It's 2 injections from a healthcare provider, as few as 6 times a year. Don't take Cabenuva if allergic to its ingredients or taking certain medicines that may interact. Serious side effects include allergic reactions or rash, post-injection reactions, liver problems, and depression. If these occur, get medical help right away. Tell your doctor about your medicines or supplements, medical conditions, liver or kidney problems, mental health, pregnancy, and breastfeeding. The most common side effect is injection site reaction. With Cabenuva, you're good to go without daily HIV pills. Talk to your doctor about switching.
New projects means new project managers. You need to hire.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. When you sponsor a job on Indeed, it's easier for talented candidates to find it, which makes it easier for you to hire them. Visit Indeed.com/hire.
Well, would you look at that?
Jerry, you gotta see this.
Saying it. Trust me, after 15 walks, gets a little old.
Yeah, I really should be retired by now.
Wish I invested when I had the chance. To the moon. Unbelievable.
Stop waiting. Start investing. E-Trade from Morgan Stanley.
This holiday, Verizon will turn your old or broken phone into a gift. Anyone can trade in any phone in any condition and get Samsung Galaxy S24 Plus with Galaxy AI and Watch and Tap. All 3 on us. Even if your phone is old or dated, you can turn it in at Verizon for gifts for you and the family. All 3 on us. That's up to $1,900 in value. Only on Verizon.
Emergency crystals pop and fizz when you throw them back. And who doesn't love a good throwback? vitamin D for the dark days of winter.
Men, how many bathroom trips are you making each day? Try Super Beta Prostate Advanced, the #1 selling formula in its category. Made with Prostafend, a triple action blend to help reduce urges to urinate. Find it at Walmart or these retailers.
We were going to host the holiday party of the season.
But then our Nuts.com order arrived.
I was unboxing all these incredible snacks. Nuts.com customizable trays, the Winter Wonderland box, chocolate truffles, Santa's pants, which was a perfect centerpiece.
Jordan almonds, Christmas gummy bears. The taste testing was more inhaling.
Next year, the spread won't be, well, crumbs.
Create your own holiday deliciousness. Get 20% off plus free shipping on your first order. Nuts.com.
Glad stainless steel meets scratch defense extreme non-stick with an ultra-thick aluminum core for high-performance heating. Maximize cooking, minimize cleaning. Scratch-free, worry-free, forever. Get 25% off at Circulon.com.
One of the most important job requirements, it would seem, for working for Donald Trump's second term is total loyalty. Politico reports prospects for jobs have been asked to file documents indicating everything they've done to support Trump, and we've heard the same in public.
It's about surrounding my father with people who are both competent and loyal.
The main thing for President Trump, he needs loyalty. He needs somebody that understands it, but's going to watch his back.
We have seen the jobs coming down to a kind of audition about loyalty, and if you have criticized them in the past, you have to make up for it. Take the FCC post, which regulates TV and radio and is of apparent interest to Trump. A Trump loyalist was installed there who's the author of the famed Project 2025. While he was running for president, Trump was distancing himself from that project. This week, The Times says Trump is expected to invite Treasury contenders to Mar-a-Lago. Here are some responses from Democrats.
That's Trump's point, because what he wants to do with these nominees is establish that the Congress of the United States will not stand up to him with anything.
You have to have the right character. You have to have the right qualifications. You have to go through an actual vetting process.
I certainly hope that's the case and that we won't see nominees jammed through in recess appointments where there's no confirmation hearing.
If they will confirm Matt Gaetz, they will do anything he wants.
And if you go over to Saturday Night Live and you think about what are kind of the national punchlines that everyone can relate to, here's how it's playing there.
Americans need someone to teach them how to be healthy, someone like me, a 70-year-old man with movie star looks and a worm in his brain.
I had to resign from Congress because the confirmation process comes at the busiest time of year for me.
The holidays?
Girls' volleyball season.
I care deeply about a woman's right to choose to give her child polio.
Alec Baldwin doing his best RFK Jr., which comes after his stint years past doing Donald Trump. He might have never expected all of these different roles he would end up playing based on the formation of the cabinet. We have someone who did serve in Trump's White House and who warned against some of this, Sarah Matthews, when we come back.
Hi, my name is Damian Clark. If you have both Medicare and Medicaid, I have some really encouraging news that you'll definitely want to hear. Depending on the plans available in your area, you may be eligible to get extra benefits with the Humana Medicare Advantage Dual Eligible Special Needs Plan. Most plans include the Humana Healthy Options Allowance, a monthly allowance to help pay for eligible groceries, utilities, rent, and over-the-counter items. The Healthy Options Allowance is loaded onto a prepaid card each month, and whatever you don't spend carries over from each month. Plus, your doctor, hospital, and pharmacy may already be part of our large Humana networks. So call the number on your screen now and ask about a Humana Medicare Advantage Dual Eligible Special Needs Plan. And remember, annual enrollment ends on December 7th.
Tulsi Gabbard. He's looking at people who are conservative media darlings now, people who will go out and defend him, anything and everything that he does, and will not push back on him. And so that's what I warned about the administration taking shape to look like, and it kind of appears that that's the path that we're headed down.
When it comes to cabinet debate, again, historically, it's a key power of the Senate to advise and consent. And the way that works is that you have some sort of impact or leverage, even though parties have generally been pretty solicitous of the same party's proposals. Here you have picks that it's hard to imagine people defending. We know how Matt Gaetz stands among his own party. RFK Jr., if Barack Obama put forward RFK Jr. as a lifelong Democrat, pro-choice HHS person, you can imagine all the Republicans opposing. Now many are sort of pretending they like these picks or coming up with other reasons. Take a look.
We need real reformers up and down the cabinet, and I think President Trump has put forth qualified nominees.
There's not one person that I know of that hasn't met Matt Gaetz and has an opinion. So I wish him well. I hope he goes on and does good things for our country.
I think Gaetz deserves an opportunity, and hopefully the Senate will give him a fair shot.
President Trump has the prerogative to nominate the people that he thinks can best lead the change.
Sarah?
We've heard a lot of use of the word mandate in the last couple of weeks, and I think that a lot of these Republican elected officials keep saying, well, Donald Trump was given a mandate, so therefore he gets total deference on who he wants to be in his cabinet. But like you mentioned earlier in the program, it is the Senate's role to advise and consent. And so when there are nominees that Donald Trump is more than capable of putting forth, he can put up whoever he wants. It is the role of the Senate then to vet them. And I don't know if we're going to see a vetting take place because, look, he wants these recess appointments. Even today, Senator Rick Scott of Florida tweeted out that we should do recess appointments. And so I hope that the senators remember that they have a constitutional duty to vet these people. Unfortunately, I do think that you're going to see them reserve their political capital. I think that maybe they'll kill one of these nominations. If I had to guess, maybe Matt Gaetz as Attorney General, just because I think that there are enough people on Capitol Hill that loathe him and don't want to see him in that role. But I do think that most of these other nominees that might not necessarily be the most qualified will probably squeak through.
We've dealt with seriousness from much of the hour, a lot of what's going on. I have a photo to put on the screen people may have seen that is less serious, but it's sort of in the ballpark of what we're dealing with. We'll leave it up for a minute. Donald Trump Jr. shared it. You see, of course, him and his father. You see Elon Musk, who's playing this outsized role right now. Speaker Mike Johnson sort of perched there. And then RFK Jr., who apparently in some sort of ritual is being asked to pose with and maybe even eat and imbibe McDonald's, which cuts against everything he's stood for. And McDonald's, of course, figured into the campaign politics as well. So with the notation, Sarah, that this is not as serious a matter as some of what else we've covered tonight, you've been in the Trump orbit. What do you see as the purpose of a photo like this? Is the embarrassment for RFK Jr. deliberate or just happenstance? Where does this fit into this strange time we're in?
I think that the look on RFK Jr.'s face kind of says it all. I think that he clearly feels uncomfortable in this photo. And I do think that there is sometimes the embarrassment is the point. I think Donald Trump loves when people come begging and crawling back to him. And look, RFK Jr. blasted him on the campaign trail while he was still a candidate for president. And so I think that it is kind of funny when you pull up a photo like this to look at it. And something else that sticks out to me too, though, is the role that Elon Musk is playing in what is going to shape up to be the second Trump administration and how heavily he's putting in his input into the cabinet picks. And it almost feels like he's trying to be co-president here, but I don't see that relationship lasting too long. They might look happy in this photo, but there's just no way two men with that big of egos will survive. And Donald Trump will probably get sick of him eventually. So that's just my 2 cents on the situation.
No, that's interesting coming from you, Sarah Matthews, a former Trump White House aide. You spoke out against Donald Trump before this election, but giving us some insights into how that may work. He and Elon have been sort of having a mutual kind of excitement about each other from the closing of the campaign trail the last final weeks and what we've seen recently. But you're reminding everyone, based on what you've seen, that may not hold. Thanks for joining us. We'll be coming back to you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. When we come back, we have a lot more in the program, including an interesting story of redemption with the artist Shine by the end of the hour. But first, I'm going to show you the legal fact check that has Rudy Giuliani forcibly giving up his belongings.
I forgot to wash my work shirt.
Just wear it again. I added Unstoppables, now with odor blocker, and it keeps our clothes fresh all day.
Ooh, I'm gonna be feeling it at work today.
She smells so good, I'm actually paying attention. Smell Unstoppable.
How are folks 60 and older having fun these days?
Family cookouts.
Playing games.
Dancing in the park.
Disability is not a dirty word.
It takes a lot to be able to get to the pride part of disability because we live in an ableist society.
There are millions of people like me. They are overlooked and underestimated.
I have a mind, I have a heart, I have a passion.
It's who I am, whether I'm sitting or standing.
If I didn't have this disability, I wouldn't be the person that I am today.
Say disability.
With pride.
At Harbor Freight, we design and test our own tools and sell them directly to you. No middleman, just quality tools you can trust at prices you'll love. Whatever you do it for less at Harbor Freight.
The itch and rash of moderate to severe eczema disrupts my skin night and day. Despite treatment, it's still not under control. But now I have Rinvoq. Rinvoq is a once-daily pill that reduces the itch and helps clear the rash of eczema fast. Some taking Rinvoq felt significant itch relief as early as 2 days, and some achieved dramatic skin clearance as early as 2 weeks. Many saw clear or almost clear skin.
Rinvoq can lower ability to fight infections. Before treatment, test for TB and do blood work. Serious infections, blood clots, some fatal. Cancers, including lymphoma and skin. Serious allergic reactions. GI tears, death, heart attack, and stroke occurred. CV event risk increases in age 50 plus with a heart disease risk factor. Tell your doctor if you've had these events. Infection, Hep B or C, smoked, are pregnant, or planning. Don't take if allergic or have an infection.
Disrupt the itch and rash of eczema. Talk to your dermatologist about Rinvoq.
Learn how AbbVie can help you save.
Hi, I'm Jay Jackson. For almost 20 years, Abacus Life has been purchasing life insurance policies from seniors. And in just seconds, you can use the free calculator at abacuspays.com to learn what your policy might be worth.
For many of my clients, selling their life insurance to Abacus was right for them and their estate plan.
Don't sell or lapse your policy without going to abacuspays.com first. There are no fees and no obligations. Get the real value from your life insurance when you need it with Abacus.
Liberty Mutual customized my car insurance, so I saved hundreds. But the money I saved, thought I'd get a wax figure myself. Oh, right in the temporal lobe. Beat it, punks! Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty. With Blue Diamond, cook on diamonds for this unbelievable price. Diamond-infused technology creates the hardest non-stick coating. It's 5 times harder. Metal utensil safe. Big messes wipe clean. Get Blue Diamond. Unbelievable performance. Unbelievable price.
Your shipping manager left to find themselves, leaving you lost. You need to hire.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Sponsored jobs on Indeed are 2.5 times faster to first hire. Visit Indeed.com/hire.
Introducing new Oroxon Gel, the first FDA-cleared ED treatment available without a prescription. Oroxon Gel is clinically proven to work within 10 minutes, so you and your partner can experience the heights of intimacy. New Oroxon ED Treatment Gel.
Deck the turkey with gravy and fixings. Fa la 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 la.
Dad, we are at a restaurant.
'Tis the season for ham and pork roast. Fa la 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 la.
I didn't know turkeys could sing.
We wish you a life.
My doctor's office with a filing system from the 80s has my social.
Think of all the places that can expose your info. LifeLock monitors millions of data points for identity theft. If there's a problem, we fix it. Guaranteed.
We are in a transition period, and there's been a lot of talk, debate, and discussion about what has worked and what has failed, and there's certainly plenty to review when it comes to America's legal systems. But I say systems because you have to remember there is more than one. There's the federal system, the debate now over the incoming attorney general pick by the president. There's the state system. And then, separate from criminal law, there are the civil systems where people can sue each other all over the country. And that's true no matter who's president or what happens on January 20th. And that's one of the problems that Rudy Giuliani is facing, because while he is allied with the incoming Trump administration, they cannot spare him the legal accountability he faces in many places, including, for example, how he's now forced to give up much of his valuable assets to these Georgia poll workers, Ruby and Shay Moss, because in cases that Donald Trump, as president, will not control and cannot reverse, he was found liable for defaming them over the lies on behalf of Trump in 2020. And he's giving up his watches, his cars, all of this towards the whopping $148 million judgment he was hit with.
Ruby Freeman and Shay Freeman Moss and one other gentleman, quite obviously, surreptitiously passing around USB ports.
What was your mom actually handing you on that video?
A ginger mint.
The standard for defamation is high, but they met it. They proved in a court of law that Donald Trump's lawyer, Giuliani, at the time, defamed them, and he owes them a lot of money. And what about his lawyers and this idea that there's no consequences? Well, they're not exactly saying that he's a good client. Rudy Giuliani's own lawyers are taking the fairly extreme measure of requesting to be able to sever ties and drop him as a client because of their own ethics concerns. That accountability is ongoing. Now, there's a lot happening, but we have some brighter notes for you when we come back.
Mr. Clean Magic Eraser. Wow, where has this been my entire life? Having to clean with multiple products is a hassle. With Magic Eraser, I use it on everyday messes. I even use it on things that I think are impossible to clean. You need Mr. Clean Magic Eraser in your life.
Missing out on the things you love because of asthma? Get back to better breathing with Fasenra, an add-on treatment for eosinophilic asthma that is taken once every 8 weeks. Fasenra is not for sudden breathing problems or other eosinophilic conditions. Allergic reactions may occur. Don't stop your asthma treatments without talking with your doctor. Tell your doctor if your asthma worsens. Headache and sore throat may occur. Tell your doctor if you have a parasitic infection. Step back out there with Fasenra. Ask your doctor if it's right for you.
Look out, 'cause here I come.
Have you always had trouble with your weight? Sing.
Discover the power of Wegovy. With Wegovy, I lost 35 pounds. And some lost over 46 pounds.
And I'm keeping the weight off.
I'm reducing my risk. Wegovy is the only weight management medicine proven to reduce risk of major cardiovascular events such as death, heart attack, or stroke in adults with known heart disease and obesity.
Don't use Wegovy with semaglutide or GLP-1 medicines or in children under 12. Don't take if you or your family had MTC, MEN2, or if allergic to it. Tell your prescriber if you are breastfeeding, pregnant, or plan to be. Stop taking and get medical help right away if you get a lump or swelling in your neck, severe stomach pain, or any of these allergic reactions. Serious side effects may include pancreas inflammation and gallbladder problems. Call your prescriber if you have any of these symptoms. Wegovy may cause low blood sugar in people with diabetes, especially if you take medicines to treat diabetes. Call your prescriber about vision changes, if you feel your heart racing while at rest, or if you have mental changes. Depression or thoughts of suicide may occur. Common side effects include nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, constipation, stomach pain, flu or upset, headache, feeling tired, dizzy or bloated, gas, and heartburn. Some side effects lead to dehydration, which may cause kidney problems.
With Wegovy,
I'm losing weight.
I'm keeping it off.
And I'm lowering my CV risk. Check your coverage before talking to your prescriber about Wegovy.
Now's the time to go back in time and shine a light on the family journey that led to you. Detailed DNA results, inspiring family history memberships. Now's the time to save at Ancestry.
My father was a Boston cop who became a lawyer, and he had me in the courtrooms all the time. And so everything that happens in courtrooms makes perfect sense to me, and my job is to try to make it make sense to an audience.
Let me set the record straight. Are people born wicked, or do they have wickedness thrust upon them? respond. That was rhetorical.
Wicked, rated PG.
Are you tired of that old worn-out bath or shower? Now you can have a new one installed in just one day with a new limited-time offer from Jacuzzi Bath Remodel. We're waiving all installation costs with no interest and no payments for up to 1 year. Jacuzzi has been making water feel great for over 70 years. And now you can get a gorgeous custom bath remodel at a price you can afford with no stress and no mess.
I've been trying to get him to remodel that bath for years. I called and they did in just one day.
And at a price we could afford.
Every time I stepped over my old tub, I worried I might fall. I don't have those fears anymore.
With Jacuzzi, you can get a safer, easy entry shower to keep you feeling comfortable and independent at home. Your new Jacuzzi bath or shower is waiting. Now is the best time to call.
We're waiving all installation costs with no interest and no payments for up to 1 year. There are only weeks remaining during our limited time offer. Go to jacuzzibathremodel.com or call 800-991-9523.
This year saw a remarkable fall from grace for Sean Diddy Combs. He faces these federal racketeering and sex trafficking charges where he pled not guilty. He's currently imprisoned, though, as he awaits trial. That is a harsher scenario than the mogul's first big brush with the law. About 25 years ago, when he was charged in a nightclub shooting along with a young artist on his label, then 21-year-old Moses Shine Barrow.
Rap star Sean Puffy Combs is out on bail. He was arrested after a shooting in a nightclub. Charges have been dropped against his companion, singer-actress Jennifer Lopez.
Was charged along with his protege, rap star Jamal Shine Barrow.
That was then. Now Diddy is back in New York courts, this time federal. And back then, Diddy did face accusers, including a woman who said he shot her. But he focused on his own growth and reform. You see here, he embraced Judaism, donning both the practices and the traditional dress of Orthodox Jews, and made his own pilgrimage to Israel. He has told the New York Times he sees Judaism as a lifeline that connects him to God and becoming a better human being, and sees no conflict with fusing the hip-hop world with the life of a Torah-observant Jew. Now, if you catch back up to the legal and immigration status, the United States deported Shine to his native Belize, and he turned back to his own family's history in public service and made an unusual turn from lawbreaker to lawmaker. Winning a seat in the legislature in 2020, he is now the leader of Belize's opposition party. And the documentary is really the first time, with everything else going on, that China's opened up with this much detail about those moments that changed his life, and also give us a little insight into how he continued to make his own choices to change his life and the lives of others. With that, I am thrilled to welcome for our first in-person interview on The Beat, Moses Shine Barrow. And the documentary, The Honorable Shine, is out now. Thanks for being here.
That's right. It's such a pleasure to be here.
We've talked, but this is your first time in person in the newsroom.
We've had coffee. We had in Brooklyn. So
coffee in Brooklyn.
That's right. 2 Brooklyn guys. So it's great to actually be here in studio, though.
Absolutely. I want to get into your whole story. We'll finish up the Diddy news first.
Yeah.
You went through all this, and you did your time, and you've reformed yourself.
Yes.
When you look at him and facing accusations that are different and far more serious than what was also a serious gun charge, how do you feel? How do you feel about him being now incarcerated awaiting trial, going through some of the situation you went through?
I wouldn't wish incarceration on my worst enemy. So I am not in any way drawn to the feeling of anything other than compassion for the victims. in particular Cassie. I think there can be no dispute that she was a victim, and I pray for her healing. I empathize with her, can relate to the loudness of Diddy's power and celebrity. There's some serious allegations there, and there's some serious evidence of wrongdoing there.
We got this serious Diddy story. We got hip-hop. We got Judaism. We got immigration. And how that relates to some of the way we do justice in the country. And so that you just live so much of this already, and now you're a lawmaker and you're in politics, which is something a lot of news viewers and people are interested in. On the immigration front, I want to show what your dad talked about, what you went through in prison and then coming out and going through that. Let's take a look.
Sure.
He was weak. He was tottering almost. I think before he was deported, he was held in some immigration facility, and I think that really, apart from the long spell in Dannemora, that helped to put the finishing touches on what clearly was a nightmarish, Kafkaesque sort of ordeal.
What did you learn about these immigration systems as well as criminal justice, and how does that inform the powers you now have as a lawmaker?
I believe one of the things that I haven't verbalized as much in my interviews as I reflect is criminal justice reform. And the idea that you throw people away because they've made a mistake and they've had involvement in the criminal justice system is bizarre and totally undermines the objective of a safe and secure society. You don't discard people.
Then we have the spiritual part, which clearly gave you some nourishment, and the Judaism. And so, you know, I'm here as a hip-hop fan. There's plenty of great New York Jewish guys who'd love to be rappers.
Yeah.
We don't know as many rappers who decide they want to be Jewish guys. So, you know, love the back and forth. And what did you take from that? How did that help you during a period where you were coming out of what you said, lost 10 years in a way?
Yeah.
Why Judaism? Why Israel? What does it mean to you?
You know, one of the holiest people I know is a gentleman by the name of Jay Schottenstein. He owns American Eagle and a bunch of other big corporations, and he's like a father to me. His family's very close to me. We actually met in Israel on Erev Passover, right on the eve of Passover. And, you know, you don't have to be religious to be a good person. Everyone has their roadmap to being the best version of themselves. Religion is just a guideline. Religion is just a point of reference on how you could be the best version of yourself, and whatever works for anyone. If Christianity works for someone, go be your best self. But Judaism works for me, and I use it and apply it in the way that satisfies my soul.
Well, and that can evolve over time. Our mutual friend, Jay-Z, you know, he used to rap growing up. They didn't pray to God, they prayed to Gotti.
Yeah.
The mob boss. But when you grow and mature, sometimes you find new things to pray to. So, Shine, I'm so glad to have you through here.
Yes.
Again, thank you very much.
Waiting to see you in Belize. So next time is
Let's
Belize.
figure it out. You know, it's a little busy in America, but I would love to get to Belize. Any reason? Again, the new documentary is The Honorable Shine, out now. That does it for us. You can always connect with me online at arimelber.com or on socials. And the readout with Jason Johnson in for Joy starts now.
Tonight on The Readout. She texted me late last night, regardless of how many times he tries to distract from the truth, the public deserves to know what we all experienced was real and actually happened. Through their lawyer, two women say they told the House Ethics Committee that Attorney General nominee Matt Gaetz paid them for sex, and that one of them saw Gaetz having sex with a woman who was then just 17. But will that ethics report ever see the light of day? Also tonight, Trump's retribution tour, targeting America's military officers, broadcasters, and many others who he perceives as the enemy. Plus, the Great Migration. Twitter X users are making the move to Blue Sky in one of the biggest upheavals in social media history. Good evening, I'm Jason Johnson in for Joy Reid. It has been just 13 days since the election, And Donald Trump has already set a modern record for announcing his picks to serve in his incoming administration. But as he may be learning, there is a reason that presidents-elect take their time to research and actually vet each pick. Because just as quickly as he can make the announcements, the cabinet controversies are piling up and calling into question some of his choices to fill the most high-profile and sensitive jobs running our country. The weekend, we learned that Trump's pick for Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, who we've already told you would be the least experienced person to hold that role in our nation's history, paid a woman an undisclosed amount of money